Good morning. It is 9:10, and today is May 19th. This is the Budget and Public Employees Committee. Madam Clerk, please call the row.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Sanier. Alderman Browning.
Present.
Alderwoman Velazquez.
Present.
Alderman Devotie. Chair Aldrich.
Present.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Sanier. Alderman Devotie. We have 3 present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With that, we will skip item number 3, approval of the minutes. Item number 4, board bills for review. We will be reviewing today board bill number 1, which is a city FY26 budget. We have no resolutions for review. For committee discussion today, shortly we will hear from the Water Department, followed up by the Collector of Revenue, the Assessor's Office, and then we will hear from the Treasurer's Office. Before we go into the Water Division, I want to take a moment of personal privilege to speak on what happened over the weekend. First, I want to ask if we could just take a moment of silence for the 5 lives that was lost due to the tragic storm that just tore up our city. Also, I want to just, kind of lost for words, but one, say thank you to community. Community has really stepped up over this weekend. As we know, a storm hit our city pretty bad Friday, almost feel like out of nowhere, I know, for a lot of residents. From the alderman from the 9th Ward getting hit pretty badly to the alderwoman of the 12th Ward, alderwoman of the 10th Ward, and the alderwoman of the 11th Ward, neighborhoods, homes, just gone. Trees completely ripped out of the foundation, power lines down, some still haven't been restored. It was one of those storms that I don't think anybody really seen coming. Once in a generation, something like this that has happened, but I want to send thoughts and prayers, and I know that's always, people say thoughts and prayers, but continue to really just uplift a lot of folks right now that are displaced, a lot of folks that do not have homes, which some of us in this room was able to probably go to our homes, flip a light switch, take a shower, and that is not the reality for a lot of people. But I also want to thank the community for stepping up in the way that they did, as being out there. I was able to be out there over the weekend, and it was just beautiful to see St. Louis stand up and support one another. From organizations like Action and For the Culture, holding it down at O'Fallon Rec Center. So many donations came in and deploying people out, not just to clean up, but also to disperse resources. I want to also thank the mayor's office, who have been working diligently with the Board of Aldermen and just trying to figure this all out, figuring out shelter, working with different partners, working with the president's office, working with all the departments to ensure that there are porta potties, to ensure that there are just whatever each department are able to do to make sure that residents are safe. I want to thank a lot of my colleagues at the Board of Aldermen that may not have been affected by the storm, that donated. I know the alderwoman sitting next to me of the 6th Ward, literally truckloads and truckloads of material, people that just stepped up and took the call to action. So it's going to be a tough rebuild. The reality is it will not be a few weeks. It will not be a few months. We're talking about an area, being honest, in North St. Louis that already was struggling. And in areas of the Central West End, I know that was impacted, but especially in the northern part that was already struggling, that was just trying to keep things tight, and now they have nothing. And it's going to take one of them times for all of us just to come together, not to point fingers, but to work together to help one another to move our city forward, and just continue to try to do something, because a lot of people are in pain right now. With that, I will go to the alderman from the 9th Ward.
Thank you, Chair. You said it well, and you know, surveying the damage on Friday afternoon and continuing to go through the blocks in my ward on Saturday and Sunday, just trying to report problems and trying to make sure everyone's okay. And thankfully, it looks like we got lucky in the 9th Ward, and that so far I have not heard of any human cost. Homes can be rebuilt, trees can be regrown, but I'm grateful for everyone that made it through the storm okay, and I mourn for the people who we lost. I think this was, as you said, a once in a generation storm. We will continue to focus our efforts on recovery, and I just ask for the public's patience as we do so. We know that some people are still without power. We know that some people don't have homes that are safe to return to. And we have resources available. We are pointing people in the direction of help, and we are seeing help come out of every corner of this city and this region. One thing that I have seen in the last few days that has just given me so much encouragement is that wherever I go, neighbors are coming out of their houses and helping each other out, and just showing the true spirit that makes us St. Louis. So I really just want to encourage everyone to continue to look out for their neighbor in this time, and again, exercise patience and understanding as we try to move through this. We will get through this. We will get infrastructure repaired. We'll get homes repaired. We'll make sure that everyone can return back to normal as soon as possible, and we'll plant new trees, because we know that this city can be beautiful because people in the city have shown themselves to be that. So thank you all, and looking forward to continuing the work and back to budget. Thank you.
Alderwoman from the 6th.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Vice Chair. I don't really have much else to add, just to thank to, frankly, to the people at Power Creative, Craig and Megan, who opened up their doors and worked tirelessly for 5 hours to get supplies, and all the people who, well, Christian Bishop from here who came and volunteered on Saturday, my staffer Bree who was there, and we were able to, thanks to South City and the county and the neighboring people, we were able to fill up about three 10-foot trucks with supplies and 2 additional vans that sent fresh fruits and diapers to the shelter. And we've got a whole vestibule full of stuff ready for another truck. So that just speaks to the generosity of our neighbors across the city. As an announcement, we'll be collecting more things at Power Creative from noon to 5 p.m. tomorrow. That's at 3221 Oak Hill Drive or Oak Hill Avenue in Tower Grove South. But it's the stuff for the people, and it's less about the things than making sure that people are safe and supported. So appreciate my colleagues, appreciate the community organizations that stepped up, like Action Culture, appreciate the work of the mayor's office, and as my colleague said, we'll just continue to move forward the best we can in the ways that we can support the people of St. Louis, especially as this next round of storms comes through in the next few days.
Thank you, Alderwoman. And I also say it was kind of hard to even want to hold a budget committee hearing today, because we, as alders, we know there's so much help and need out there. Unfortunately, since the Board of Aldermen has such a tight turnaround when it comes to the budget, and when we get it, if we don't kind of get the budget back to the mayor by July 1st, the Board of Aldermen would not have completed our responsibilities of getting this budget done. But we are being patient and sensitive to what is going on, and still will do the work here at City Hall. But I know plenty of us, after this committee is over, are going to be back out in the streets in our neighborhoods and other neighborhoods supporting. So just appreciate everybody for being patient with us. And with that, we will go to the Water Department. We have the director here. Please come on up, just state your name if you also want to state any support staff you have here with you, and then you can just proceed into your budget.
Thank you. I'm Neeraj Patel. I'm the Director of Public Utilities. I've got Perla Burke here with me. She's our fiscal manager. I just want to take a second to echo the thoughts. My heart goes out to all the family that lost a loved one, all the devastation out there. Water Division is here to help. There are affected customers, and we urge you to contact us if you have an issue that we can help with. So, thank you. So the Water Division's budget, just want to point out that we're an enterprise fund of the city. We like to think of ourselves as a water utility first. We have a responsibility to our customers to meet regulations, Safe Drinking Water Act, and be sustainable for the future of the city to provide water, critical resource. So our accounts are kept separate from the city's general revenue fund. We are funded by the fees that we collect, our rates. The rates are very important to ensure that we can meet our mission to provide safe drinking water reliably to all of our customers at an affordable cost. So we do manage 2 water treatment plants, 1,300 miles of water mains. The industry typically targets replacing 1% to 2% of those mains a year, as they have a 50 to 100% or 100-year service life. So that would mean trying to replace 13 to 26 miles of water main or restore those to complete operation. We do have 15,500 fire hydrants also for critical fire protection. It's one of our main core life-saving functions that we have. And then 23,000 valves in the system used to isolate when we're experiencing issues, repairs needed, main breaks, and doing our maintenance operations out there. So we do have 93,000 plus service connections. We're seeing a slight uptick every year of connections, but we are seeing declining revenues as well. So as far as usage, consumption, metered. We do monitor our water every day. We have 2 labs for 150 plus contaminants to meet drinking water regulations. And we take that very seriously as our role to promote public health and safety. 27,000 tests annually. We do produce, on average, this past fiscal year, 134 million gallons a day, nearly 50 billion gallons annually out of our 2 water treatment plants into the system. Next slide, please. Department overview, we've got multiple sections. The administrative section, I'm not going to read all that out to you, but our distribution section handles the distribution system, repairs, maintenance, activities out in the city. Our finance section, supports payment of invoices, maintaining the budget. Our supply and purifying section operates the treatment plants, make sure that there's quality drinking water coming out of those plants into the distribution system. We've got a power and pumping section that handles the pump station and also the power at the 2 treatment plants. We own our substations at the treatment plants. And they make sure that there's adequate pressure in the city, monitor those pressures, and respond when there's issues with major main breaks. We do have a support section in construction and maintenance that supports activities at the plant and other water division facilities, also out in the distribution section at times when short-staffed or need that support. And then our customer service section, is the outward-facing call center where customers call to initiate a new service, or if they've got issues, billing, or problems with their water lines. So we do have a revenue estimate, $81.2 million this coming fiscal year compared to last fiscal year. We've got a slight increase. We anticipate that we'll have more revenue coming in as we transition away from a water moratorium shutoff and into, assisting our customers to get back on track, keep up with their payments. We have programs coming that we'll be announcing that will assist in that capacity. The 20% rate increases have come into full effect. We've seen the increase there. That's reflected in this revenue estimate. We do also have a CPI adjustment that will be coming January 1 of next year. That will be 3% based on the CPI from year over year. Really appreciate that being worked into this rate increase the past time. That helps us keep up with the inflationary costs. One thing to note is that water and sewer rates, as it pertains to inflation, has outpaced normal inflation, maybe in excess of 2 to 1. Rates in that sector are going up highly due to old infrastructure, increasing regulatory concerns and monitoring, the need to modernize our treatment systems, our treatment plants, our distribution system with additional monitoring to ensure that safety is there, promote public health and safety. Our expenses, can you go back one slide, please? Thank you. Our expenses are estimated at $89 million. That is obviously higher than our revenue estimate there. And so we do have to actually bring money in from our water contingent fund to make up that shortfall. So even with the rate increases, with the ongoing work that we've been doing to restore and repair due to emergencies in the water distribution system and at the treatment plants and the rising costs that we're experiencing, we are going to have a shortfall if we don't bring money in from that water contingent fund. The goal of the rate increases was actually to build that fund back up to be able to address, capital needs. We have an annual capital budget that's relatively small compared to what we need to be doing, but this is the annual budget, not part of a fund or a capital plan. So we do try to build that reserve fund up so that we can address major issues if they come up and try to address capital projects as part of a renewal plan. But we will again be taking from that reserve fund to make up the shortfall. So this is a small text here, but basically this is the reconciliation of our revenue and our expenses to show that we're making up for that shortfall with an amount from that contingent fund that's being brought over. You can see $4.14 million approximately. And then it does also show the revenue coming in anticipated and the expenses broken out by category. Our personnel services is $34 million there. That's by far our largest bucket, but followed shortly behind is contractual and other services at $28 million. This is the support activities that we have to maintain and repair and operate as a division to act as a water utility. We do have that $6 million at the very bottom there in projects. That's what I referred to as far as the annual projects that we target to keep our pumping units operational, to keep our treatment plants operational, address the major repairs that are necessary to keep this stuff going, the older infrastructure that we have, and out in our distribution system as well to support the repair operations out there, identified projects that we can tackle within the scale of our annual budget. Next slide, please. So this is a chart just showing, going back to FY14, the revenue and expense. It shows basically that year over year, prior to the pandemic, we did have either more revenue than expenses or more expenses than revenues, but they're relatively close to each other. And then as a result of the pandemic, some of the issues with supply chain, some of the issues with rising costs, we did see that expense line start shooting up pretty rapidly. That cut into our reserve and took us to the request for the emergency rate increases. And as you can see, there's been a response, but it's lagging. So The cash receipts that we have do not make up for the expenses, therefore we're still behind in building that reserve back up. This shows the reserve balance, our contingent fund over time. You can see there was a period of time where we were building that up, into the $37 million range, and then as a result of COVID, rising costs, the pandemic, we saw a decline. That decline got down dangerously low, and the rate increase has started to stabilize that. You can see the line shallows towards the end there, but we're still going to be in a decline. This shows a projection of FY26 included, and also the last 2 months were estimated for this fiscal year. This chart shows 6 years year over year of the different major buckets that we have within our revenue or within our operating expenses. Personnel services is the first section. You can see that we have an increase year over year. This is due to our budget increasing, yes, but also some of the annual increases that have been built in, the rising costs within healthcare and retirement system that we have to pay into. And then you see a large increase this coming fiscal year. I can explain that a little bit later on in the slides, but we do have vacancies within our personnel services, and that larger line at the end includes for some of those vacant positions. We transfer that balance out to come up with a match for our chemical costs that have been rising that we actually under budget a little, and also our electric costs that we under budget a little bit. So we transfer that to other areas as needed to maintain our TO and our staffing levels. You can also see that the equipment and projects are relatively low. That's a result of the rising costs of our contractual and other services, our materials and supplies by way of chemicals for water treatment, and also our personnel services. So we talked about the health and safety supplies. That's our water treatment chemicals that we use. The costs have been stabilizing a little bit. This has been the main culprit as far as our rising costs go through the pandemic. We have seen it stabilizing, rising slower. We have an anticipated transfer of $4 million from our personnel services line item to match the estimate of $15 million in treatment chemicals this coming fiscal year. So we have budgeted $11 million. We could realize some savings there with some newer, more efficient facilities to handle and process these treatment chemicals. There's opportunity there, but these are going to be capital projects that would come down the road with funding that we would need to procure. This is a chart showing the rising chemical costs year over year. We've got an anticipated for next fiscal year, but this shows $15 million approximately, and you can see we started at $6.2 million. So this is happening industry-wide. All water systems are contending with this rising cost. It contributes to the inflationary CPI for water, wastewater that I mentioned. It's just a portion of what we have to deal with, and the rate increases help, but we're still in a shortfall. Our personnel services budget, $34.7 million. We had an increase. Our vacancy rate has been going down. We've been making hires. We've seen improvements through Department of Personnel. We've seen improvements with having applicants coming in. We hope to continue that trend. We do need the help to ensure that our facilities are maintained and repaired, and also that our operations can continue. We can support the community in our mission. So we do also have an amount that has to be made up, though, by our contractual services. We do continue to engage contractors to come up with the shortfall of that vacancy, 26%. For electrical, HVAC, pump and motor repairs, we have a hauling contract for a shortfall within our heavy equipment operators, our dump truck drivers. And then also we've been utilizing contractors to assist and address water main breaks repairs, broken valves in the system that affect our ability to repair some of these water main breaks, and keeping up with the maintenance and replacement of non-operational failed hydrants to keep the system available for fire protection. So this shows our staffing levels across our different programs. We do have some high vacancies within some of these operating sections, some lower vacancies in others, but across the board, it's a 26% vacancy rate, which is coming down, as I mentioned. So we have 365 full-time employees, 275 currently filled. And as you can see, we do have high vacancies in our construction and maintenance section. The admin section's a little bit smaller. We've added some positions there to support upcoming lead and copper rule requirements that we'll have. So this is a little bit skewed, but we do have issues with our supply and purifying, power and pumping, distribution, construction, maintenance sections there as well. So this is again just a chart showing the vacancy rate and the decline this past fiscal year. We did have issues throughout COVID, but we're hoping that that trend reverses. So we do have $33 million in the contractual services. It's an increase. We've been utilizing our contract, to repair water mains and also maintain our treatment plants. The costs have been going up there as well. It is more affordable for us to maintain a staff to address this in-house. It's just challenging with some of the salaries, some of the challenges in staffing across the utilities in general. So we are competing with other utilities for this talent and seeing people move around within that field. So we did have 391 main breaks in FY23, 372 in FY24. So far, we've got 274 this fiscal year. It's hard to actually show that as a trend and have that be an indicator. Some of these are small leaks. Some of these are major main breaks. Some of these are addressed within 48 hours. Some of these are addressed over the course of months. They require major planning, procurement of larger equipment that has longer lead times. These numbers do go up and down year over year, but it just goes to show you that we do have a significant number of issues in our distribution system with water main breaks. That's something that we hope to address by doing replacements of major portions of the distribution system. That'll take a lot more funding though than we have now. So this is a chart showing the last 3 years of water main breaks. You can see that we typically have a peak seasonally. This chart goes with the fiscal year from July to June. We do have an uptick in the winter. We do have an uptick in the summer when the ground temperature changes greatly. That's when we see the main breaks starting to peak. Going into the alternate sources of funding that are available out there, we do have 2 allocations within the ARPA funding. Relatively small, but they are important for us. We do have $1 million for a customer assistance program. I mentioned that we were working on finalizing some of the details on that. You'll be seeing that coming out of our division, within the next month. And also, we do have $1.2 million that was allocated for capital improvements. Those are underway. Some of that work is completed. Some of it is rounding out and needs to be completed. But in addition to that, there's also the bipartisan infrastructure law funding through the state of Missouri manages those funds. We did have a lead service line inventory grant. That was a $200,000 grant with a matching portion of funds that we committed. That has been completed. This was to develop a inventory with our historical records. We also had a lead service line inventory project through the bipartisan infrastructure law. That was all grant as well. We applied for $400,000. We're awarded that as a 100% grant. And then also requested an amendment, which was also approved for an additional $233,000. So we're up to $633,000 to go out there in the field, verify the material of these service lines, both out in the tree lawn and also in the customers' homes, do some outreach and education around the dangers of lead, what these customers can do to protect themselves. This is basically making sure that if the water's been sitting in the line for a long period of time overnight, flushing that line, and also we do have rigorous testing that we do to meet compliance. We're always well within the parameters, well below the parameters within that testing of the 90th percentile lead levels, sometimes as low as under 1 part per billion. And the action level would be over 15 parts per billion. So we're in good shape with our water chemistry, with our treatment process, optimizing for corrosion protection. I do have a list of some of the capital projects that we mentioned that we're targeting this coming fiscal year. We do have the Water Master Plan. That's a $1.3 million project that will set the table for the next 20 years of improvements, prioritizing improvements, identifying improvements that are necessary to meet the challenges of supplying water reliably in the city of St. Louis, meet regulatory challenges and concerns that are out there, take a look at funding, take a look at rates to address the needs of the system. That plan will come up with a cost estimate. We anticipate it'll be over $500 million, possibly over $1 billion, depending on what they identify. We do have 1,300 miles of water main in our city. That alone could be over $1 billion to replace or repair. And those mains do have a 50 to 100-year service life. So there's some life left in there, but you have to keep up with renewing that. We also have electrical infrastructure at the 2 water treatment plants. I mentioned we own the substation. We have a great need to maintain that. Some of those substations are, over 50 and 60 years old. We do have water pumping units that are older as well, from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Those are, have been rebuilt, have been maintained, but at some point you do need to replace those. We've done a couple of replacements of pumping units, and these things take years to get with the lead times. So there has to be a planning that's done with that. We've got large valves in our distribution system, 36-inch, 48-inch valves. These are critical when we have leaks or failures on major transmission mains in the system. We are also upgrading our water meters. We do have, 16,000 water meters out there. They have a service life, and in order to maintain their efficiency and, that's our revenue generation coming in, we need to replace those meters or upgrade them with cellular technology, new technology improvements that are out there. I have put together a small list of, capital projects that we're looking to do in the next 5 to 10 years. Some of these projects are longer term, some of them are shorter term, but as you can see, there's over $200 million worth of projects that are critical. These represent approximately $10 million in annual debt that we wouldn't be able to support with our current rates, with the, current budget. So if we identify these and try to prioritize them, we are going to also have to identify a funding source and then address that with rate increases. And we can reduce that with other funding that is available. But ultimately, you do have to support the water system improvements that are needed with rates. So that is the end of my presentation. I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. With that, I'll go in order. Senior Vice Chair Browning.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Director Patel. Always appreciate you, and it's good to see you. I don't have any questions for you. I think you've covered it pretty well. I think I just want to highlight, as an enterprise fund, as you pointed out, the water doesn't get any money except for the rates they charge to customers. And when you have a backlog of projects that cost well over $500 million, that there's a crucial need for the city to use some of the resources we have to get it to your department so that we can continue to have some of the country's best water and keep our customers supplied with safe, clean drinking water. So appreciate everything you do, and really just want to emphasize again the hard work that everyone in the water division does to bring us clean drinking water, and know that you're responding to the crisis that we are in right now with all the resources you have, and really appreciate that as well. This is a critical time, and everyone's stepping up. So thank you.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Velasquez.
Thank you, and thank you, Commissioner Patel, our acting commissioner. I know that we communicate a lot over different things, so I appreciate you being here. So my questions are a little bit more broad. I think it's stuff that we've kind of already touched upon. I think obviously, I am concerned, and I think a lot of us are concerned about the needs versus the amount we have to pay for the needs. And I know that there is, hopefully it has been approved, the study, right, is an audit the best way to describe it, or an operational?
The Water Master Plan, yes.
Yes, can you talk about that? And then you talk about the timeline for that, what information that will yield specifically to kind of guide us into, where we should be putting our resources and not.
Sure, of course. No, thank you for the question. It is a very important project for us. It is going to take a look and assess the infrastructure across the division. It's comprehensive, so it's going to take a look at the distribution system, the water mains, the transmission mains, and the distribution mains that are more in residential areas. The age of them, the consequence of failure of some of the more critical infrastructure that's out in the distribution system, and then try to prioritize where we spend our limited resources, within restoring that asset. So in addition to that, it's looking at the treatment plants. Are we optimized there? They are older facilities. In many ways, we have benefited greatly from these facilities. They were built in the 1800s, in the 1900s, and we've gotten a lot of life out of them. There have been iterations of improvements that have been done as water treatment technology has changed. Some of those innovations occurred in St. Louis. We were seen as a leading city as far as the engineers that were designing and building these plants. The trade organization we have, AWWA, was founded in St. Louis in the 1800s at WashU. And so, this is a worldwide organization that talks about the water industry, the challenges we face, the innovations that are out there. And it did start in St. Louis. So, doing this evaluation at the treatment plants to make sure that we are ready for the next generation is critical. And In addition to that, they understand that there's going to be funding challenges. So they are going to take a look at the funding stack that we'll have to put together. It does include a large portion that is funded through rates, but it can include, innovative financing options that are available through the EPA, through Missouri DNR. The state revolving funds play a role in that. There's some grant funds that can be gone after. And so looking at the rates, looking at the funding stack that's going to be needed to meet this heavy lift is part of the study as well. The changes in regulation are coming, faster than the industry can respond to at times. There's emerging contaminants of concern that are out there. There's lead service lines that's out there. There's the continuing evaluation of new contaminants that need to be evaluated by the EPA, by their scientists, to see what are the implications of this in water. Microplastics are another one. So it's always evolving, the regulation to ensure that the drinking water is safe. And then there's environmental regulations at play as well. So we are a surface water treatment plant. We discharge into the river. So we have a discharge permit there that needs to be evaluated. Are we following best practices when it comes to that to be good stewards of the environment as well? So it's a multifaceted approach. They're going to look at water demand projections as well. That's important. We have a city with a declining population. The infrastructure is out there. It's sized for a population of 1 million people. What are the next 10, 20 years going to look like as far as demand in the city of St. Louis for water? There's always new industries that we're looking at. We have an abundance of supply in 2 major rivers that come, to a confluence here in St. Louis. So we have a critical resource for the future in a high quality water source, and the ability to treat and increase our capacity to meet the needs of new industries. We could be there as far as a resource for these operations, these companies that need a large source of water and can't find it out west.
Thank you. I think, and when Commissioner Scobie was here, I think I asked him the same thing last year. So it's I think difficult because there is so much that seems like it needs to be done, and I think sometimes folks, what's unique about the water department is just my take. I mean, you are a public utility because it's a city department. It's not regulated like other utilities. It seems that there can be some gaps because we're not regulated by the PSC. And so kind of what I think what my bigger concern is that, and it's difficult, right? But I feel like we're kind of piecemealing the things that we need to do without this master plan. And I don't know, I guess I'm looking for this audit, I'm looking for the department, like what is the overall best approach to all these things and financing all these things? Like, do we need to be looking at bonding? I'm not supportive of using RAMS funds to supplement the water department. However, I feel like without an overarching plan that encompasses the things that you're just describing, it's not nearly as effective. So I don't know how we get to the point as a city where we need to stabilize. Obviously, we have this aging infrastructure. No matter what we're planning is not to stop the water mains from breaking when they break. But how do we get to a point where we can create a long-term plan but stabilize what we have? Because it does seem like, and I supported the water rate increase. It doesn't seem like it was enough, and it doesn't seem like it was enough in comparison to, I'm not sure the $40 million from the RAM settlement is enough either. And nothing will ever be enough until we fit into a larger plan that probably involves other kinds of financing beyond grants. I mean, it feels like it needs to be it needs to be all together, and I'm not really sure how we get there.
Sure. No, and I think the master plan plays a critical role there. It does come up with a list. It does come up with a priority number for each of these projects, and it comes up with a cost. Looking at the funding that will be needed, none of this can be done all at once. There's limited resources, even in human resources, as far as being able to address all these projects at once. But tackling the priority projects first, identifying the need to start doing some of this renewal work, is the first step. Identifying the problem and then knowing, how we can approach that annually. What can we support annually as far as minimizing the impact to the ratepayers, having that be something that is sequenced and absorbable by the public, and then blending that funding stack to make sure that we're minimizing that as well. I think the RAMS funding can play a piece in holding back some of the rate increases that would be required if we didn't have that piece. But we have to take a look at this holistically. There are competing needs across the city. As you all know, you're hearing these needs. So the fact that we're a municipally owned water treatment system utility is actually of great benefit. We don't have a profit that needs to be made. A lot of the private systems see regulation as a chance to get increasing revenues, increasing revenues for their shareholders as well. So we do need to meet that challenge, that need, though, ourselves. And so we can do so while having the focus be on affordability and minimizing the impact to the ratepayers to maximize that benefit. So I see the municipally owned system as critical in controlling our own destiny, but we have to have that story, we have to have that plan, and that's why it's such a critical project. You asked about the time frame. I didn't answer that, but it is going to take at least a year, and I think because it's comprehensive, these are living documents. You do a master plan, you revisit that master plan in 5 years, you reevaluate, you may redo it entirely in 10 years. And so I think as we start to develop this, we'll find that we'll want to add things in that weren't included. I know that it's been brought up before, but a cost of service study is very important to do. This takes a look at how we can equitably, readjust the rates across, not across the board like we've been doing, but truly evaluate each different rate class, each different customer class, and say, here's actually what it costs to provide this service to each of these different classes. Take a look at our fees that we charge, for these different customer groups, and right size all of these based on how water is used today, how water is supplied today.
Thank you. I do just want to say, I do appreciate, and I think the water department is one of our biggest assets. What I do think, and I will just say that I worked previously and I had a client who was a private water utility, so I have probably just enough insight to maybe drive you crazy. But I do think that since we essentially have to regulate ourselves, it's holding ourselves to those same sort of standards, right? That the PSC, not necessarily for profit piece, but some of the standards and making sure that we are thinking about the long-term costs, which I think that private utilities or utilities regulated by the PSC have to, because that's what they do to calculate their rate increase, right?
Yes.
So and that's, I think, just broadly what I'm more concerned about. Of course, we want to be able to keep the costs down for our customers, and we have obviously a lower cost for our customers than most places in the region. And I think, I would love to see this master study be done sooner, because I think it's critical, because I think the public, it's confusing. One, nobody obviously likes their bill to get higher. But it's also confusing when we say one thing and, they think it's going to cover the cost, but it doesn't really cover the cost, but there's all these complex other costs that are in the background. And just, from both the RAMS surveying and just hearing from our constituents, I think everybody thinks that water infrastructure is one of the most important things that we do in the city and one of the most critical needs. And so how do we speed it up? Because I really think that we need the broader financing we need to figure that out. Especially in the context of all that just happened this weekend, in infrastructure. you know, I mean, I don't know if, I know it's got to be a year, but I don't really know if it can wait another year. I mean, because I think the big piece is how do we finance all of this? Again, not just to avoid raising rates, but to say, how do we prioritize it? And if we don't know what needs to be, if we don't really understand that and know that, then how are we going to do that? And it's not just raising the rates. It's not just that simple.
Sure, no, and I hear that, you know, I think it is very important that we address this, you know, with some immediacy, with some concern. And I think that cost of service study will take a look at some of the costs that are coming up. And you can actually integrate that plan. You can integrate the capital needs plan into a cost of service plan and evaluate how you roll that out. So it'll take a look at the different tranches of funding that need to be addressed with the different tranches of projects that are coming in at different timeframes and say, here's how you sequence that. I think that's, you know, something that needs to be presented to the decision makers within our rate making process. Any water utility, any utility in general has a rate making process, and ours, you know, is established. But the information, the facts matter. You need data to be able to show, you know, what the request is, what it encompasses. The water rate increases that we just had were a result of rising costs and the pandemic. And so, you know, it did not address these capital needs. I think we're still working to define that better, to be able to present to the decision makers within our government, be at that table together to realize that we have, you know, this responsibility and work together on a plan. Like you said, it's big. It takes a lot of different people involved to make sure, you know, even the bonding side of it. You know, there's different city agencies that are involved, and we are working to try to get that quicker. But it will take time to do the initial assessments, evaluation, come up with the project list. But I think within a year, we'll have something to be able to present as far as, you know, what this looks like, how we roll this out. Even the shortfall in this coming fiscal year's budget, you know, we're going to have a discussion about what it's costing to provide this service, and take a look to see if the CPIU adjustment is going to be enough to address that. You know, these things do change rapidly at times, and then they stabilize over time. So right now we're seeing a stable rise of costs. You know, it's not excessive, it's not fluctuating. Hopefully that takes us into the next conversation of, you know, what are we going to need to do for rates to be able to address this first round of critical projects?
Thank you. That concludes all my questions for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Velasquez. Just a few questions about the budget and then some broader questions here. So I noticed you're probably one of the only departments when I look at what you requested, you got everything you requested. And in one department, or in, I guess, the salaries, you requested less, and you got a little bit more than that. So, and it looks like it's just maybe increase in salary, personnel, or personal services for that. So like I say, you usually don't, everything you requested, Paul was like, this is all departments are important, but he must have said this one's an important one that we got to give them what they need. But when I look at your TO chart, or your FTE full-time employees, I see in 2025 you requested 365 employees, and you was only able to fill 269. And you kind of talked about the vacancy. And this year you're requesting additional 2 more from that 365. At the Board of Aldermen, we usually just get a snapshot of how many are occupied in the department when they give us a book. Can you give us an updated number right now of how many employees are fully occupied at the Water Division?
Sure. So 275 full-time employees currently out of the 365 that we have on the TO currently.
Okay, and it looks like you're requesting 367. 367, but you were granted 369. Okay.
Yeah, next fiscal year, we did add a few positions. We added a safety officer, we added additional engineering positions, to address, I think I mentioned it previously, but the lead service line program project, that's going to require some additional staff. It's something new that's being put on us, and so, it'll come with additional staff requirements.
Okay, and how are you, I guess, working with the personnel department to make sure that these are filled? I'm just looking at like some important positions that I'm sure would be critical to the department. Water maintenance tech, you are asking for 79. It looks like last session, or last budget, about 60 filled. I mean, heavy equipment operator, asking for 14, only looks like about 8. Again, this is a snapshot, so maybe in some of those, out of those new 5 positions, maybe some are filled, but there's a lot of critical positions that are requested that are just not filled. So what is kind of like the...
Sure. So I mentioned that we have, first of all, some stabilizing contracts that we've put in place. Water maintenance technician is one of our critical positions. You can see there's quite a few of them on our TO. It makes up the largest classification that we have in numbers. That's our ability to repair main breaks, to be out in the distribution system, evaluating leaks, addressing customer concerns. We do have contracts in place that have been stabilizing and supporting that, as far as when we can't meet the need, when we're experiencing high volumes of breaks. Working with personnel on these critical positions that are short-staffed, that we have vacancies in, is something that we've been doing ongoing. I know we're awaiting the job assessment study that's out there. I think that, our ability to hire some of these specialty positions, I would call them, these are technicians that are out there working in the holes to repair water mains. You can't just have anyone come in to do that. And so there is a specialized skill set. We're looking for qualified candidates with a background, and is that salary attracting the talent that's out there? We do see people leaving for other utilities, and so we're not at a point where we're poaching these classifications of employees that are specialty back from other utilities that are private, honestly, and better funded than we are. So that is something that will have to be addressed with salary and benefits as well. I mean, working for the city is still one of those things that people revere, and they know that we have good benefits. They know that we have pension. We try to talk to our candidates about all of those benefits, and the satisfaction of knowing that you're a civil servant, knowing that you're serving your community, helping people who need help where you live. So working with personnel on some of these higher vacancy classifications is something that we're doing. I think the technology improvements that they've put out there are helping streamline some of that. But our ask is always going to be, first and foremost, salaries. Having competitive salaries so that we can get competent employees and staffing levels back up.
Gotcha. And I want to echo a little bit of more of a comment, I guess, from the alderwoman from the 6th Ward said, far as, I think everyone understands how critical water is, at least at this board, and thankful that we have the best water probably in the nation. We shouldn't take that for granted. Water is such a critical resource that, as right now we see folks are, not being able to have the best water from their faucet and have to purchase water bottles of what happened. I think, my concern, or would, hopefully in the future like to see maybe what is a longer term plan for the water division, because I understand how there's conversations, or there were conversations, to use RAM funding if it was 30 million or 40 million to maybe do like a jolt to the water department. But just looking at your revenue and expenses, that, even that 40 million would just probably be as a design look, like an upward path, and then revenue would fall back down because that would just be a one-time. And we definitely don't want we passed a water rate increase at this board. I think a lot of us not only assumed, but was hoping that this was going to be an increase that can kind of get the water division from, no pun intended, from not being underwater. And still, it's still need more funding to get, to those reserves. And at some point, just hoping that, I think like the Alderwoman said, we can kind of get that long-term plan and audit, because, 40 million, I'm sure would be a help, but long-term wise, you still would be most likely finding your department in the red outside of the $40 million that if the board were to appropriate that.
Sure. No, I'd be happy to answer that. Thank you for the question. So I think it's important to understand that rates support our operation. The rising costs that we were experiencing, the rate increases, I know there was a hope that that would get us in a better spot to be able to work on this infrastructure, but these are not, $20 million needs. These are hundreds of $millions of needs. So rates are going to support that long-term plan. We're going to have to address that with water rates. I think we can get a head start with alternate funding sources. The RAMS funding can get us started on projects that are designed, that have been needed for a long time, that are critical, that if that infrastructure fails critically right now, we will have a challenge supplying quality water. It's important to know that without a contingent fund, without the capacity to address some of those needs now, we are at risk potentially if there is an issue that we can't fund. Working with Paul and the budget division, we address these needs if they exceed our allotted budget with additional appropriation at the end of the year.
And when you say, not to cut you off, Director, when you say this 40 million can help for critical needs, what would some of those critical needs be?
So pumping units, when a pumping unit fails, we don't have redundancy behind that because another one has failed and we're working on it as well. So a pumping unit can last 40 or 50 years and ours are 60 years old. So there's only so many times you can repair those. If we can't pump water, we can't keep pressure.
How much would, I guess, a cost of a pumping unit repair cost?
So it depends on the size, but I mean, it's upwards of $2 million. We have more than 40 pumping units. So some of the larger ones can be over $5 million. And these things take 2 years to build. They're not ready to go. They're custom. And so if we had funding now, we could begin procurement for a replacement, align the contracts to install that while it's being manufactured, prepare for that. We have projects that are designed, ready to replace pumping units or add a new one in an available slot. In addition to that, I mentioned our treatment facilities. So we've got a filter plant that is over 100 years old. It is part of it, not functional. We have filters that are not functional that we rebuild to get them back to functionality. So there's major improvement that needs to be done there. We have the need for upgraded chemical handling facilities. I mentioned that we could gain efficiencies in our lime feed process, and that would save us money on these rising chemical costs, but it takes capital to get there. So that's specialty equipment that is over $1 million and would also need to have a project to install that. Our intake structure, this is how we bring water in from the river into the treatment plant, has traveling screen machines that filter out large debris, has gates that isolate the river at various elevations so that we're getting the water with the least amount of debris coming into the pumping station. That is a $12 million project that needs to be funded. We have a design ready to go there. So these are some of the things that keep our operation going. And then, as you all see out in the distribution system, we have major impacts on leaks and breaks the break over Highway 40 caused a year-long disruption, to pressure in the system for certain customers. We had broken valves that affected our ability to even isolate that leak and do that work effectively. That was a riveted steel 60-inch main that runs in Turtle Park there by the highway. We have a leak currently at Clayton and Big Bend that's affecting traffic in that area. We're having issues isolating that leak so that we can get in there and do those repairs. So these are projects and needs that are here now, and kicking the can down the road, whether it be not having a contingent fund to be able to address these, not having rates that support these operations and these repairs that are needed now, is what we're talking about. So I think the answer broadly to that is there's a plan that's being worked on in the Water Master Plan to address and put a cost to some of these needs and a priority, but also that water rates are going to have to be what support these larger needs, and sequencing that so it's absorbed well by the ratepayers in a manner that they can absorb it. We do have some of the lowest rates in the country, some of the lowest rates in the state. That's not helping our ability to be ready for when this project list comes through, right? So we can't do that all at once, though. We can't just institute a big rate increase right up front. We have to do this over time. That's why I mentioned the CPIU adjustment is very welcome, and I think very timely, that it at least accounts for inflationary actions, not necessarily our capital program.
So you keep talking about rate increasements. Is there, I guess, a plan right now that the water department is looking at to eventually increase rates again on customers?
So that'll come with the cost of service study and integrating that capital plan in with that study. So once we've identified a priority list, once we come up with a sequencing of those priority projects, it'll come with a annual cost to support those SRF loans and annual cost by way of debt service. And so we have very little debt on the books. It's approximately $500,000 annually. The way that water systems keep up with these improvements that are needed is by acquiring more debt that is at a subsidized low interest rate through the state revolving funds, and then being able to do these projects that are needed. I think the ability to get that debt needs to be backed by the rates. And if we don't have rates that support the ability to pay that debt back, we won't get those loan products. We won't get that funding in. There's an additional piece that I mentioned on the grant funding. We don't even qualify for the grant funding through the state because of our rates being too low. There's a scoring sheet criteria. It says that you get points if your rates are between 1% and 2% of median household income. And then you get more points if you're above 2% of median household income. We're under 1%. And so our ability to get grant funding, I mean, I know it seems backwards, but is reliant on the rates actually being a significant portion and burden to the ratepayers, and we are not there.
How is that, excuse me, how is that increase of, I know eventually you want to get to increasing rates, how is that going to play hand in hand? You also talked about the moratorium that for the last 5 years the city has had on customers due to COVID, and post-COVID end up sounding like the previous administration never released that moratorium that it looks like it's about a $10 million bill, about 12% of the water department's division, like projected budget. What is, I guess, and I'm also thinking about, right now after the disasters, I'm sure some of those individuals that were on the moratorium are now, not with even a home, and the city is not only looking at increasing rates, but also have to figure out how to recuperate this $10 million. How's the water department looking to, I guess, work on this, being
Sure.
sensitive of folks' needs as well?
Yeah, we are well aware of, you know, the fact that it's not business as usual. We can't continue, you know, with a plan without reacting to what has happened over this weekend and on Friday. So, you know, part of the approach has always been to educate and promote awareness about the program, to provide a time frame that allows our at-risk customers to prepare, provide an assistance program that can help those at-risk customers that are most at need, and then see what else we can do that's creative, you know, to assist these customers to get back on track. We've been working with the Collector of Revenue's office. We've been working with the administration and the mayor's office. We've been working with, you know, vendors in the space to try to craft and curate this plan, and it's coming together. You know, it's still being finalized, but you know, those are the approaches that we've taken. You know, this can't happen quick. It has to be rolled out in phases. We have to provide as much assistance as we can within our purview. I mean, you know, the ordinances, the charter do govern our division, our utility. We can't go outside of that without interventions from other agencies to assist us. You know, I welcome further conversations with, you know, the Board of Aldermen to find out how we can work together to address some of those challenges and remove them as obstacles to be able to assist our most at risk, most at need customer base. But, you know, we are not going to just go out there and shut people off. We're asking people to contact us, to find out, you know, where they're at, what their status is of their account, and then work with them with other agencies, the Collector of Revenue, to, you know, get into a repayment plan. Tell them about our customer assistance program that's ARPA funded, you know, what those, how that assistance can help them. So, you know, it's a special scenario in case with the people affected by the tornado. We will certainly be working with them you know, to make sure that we're not making it more challenging for them when we should make it easier.
Okay, that's all the questions I have. Do you have any follow-up? All right. Thank you, Director, and thank you for your team for being here.
All right, thank you.
We are a little early, which never hurts. We'll move right, you know, we like to move and groove at this budget committee. I believe there was a presentation or document that the Collector Revenue Office has. That sounds about right. Did you have the budget ready to go, Ms. Ora? If not, I think I got that email, which I could send it to you, Ms. Yes. It looked like it was emailed over to the clerk. Yep, I see it in the drive. While we wait on the presentation to be pulled up, good morning, Mr. Collector.
Morning, Mr. Chairman.
If you just want to introduce yourself and maybe introduce the staff that you have with you.
Happy to.
And if you could talk into the mic, that'd be helpful.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Members of the committee, my name is Greg Daly. I'm the Collector of Revenue for the City of St. Louis. With me this morning, I'm fortunate to have our Chief of Staff, Mark Stoff. To Mark's left is the Assistant Collector to the Water and Refuse Division, Miss Rachel McClure. I know the committee joins me in my condolences for the families who have lost loved ones in the storm, also to the families suffering the aftermath of the storms. Obviously, our first responders are been working tirelessly the last couple days, and I just want to tip my hat to everybody involved reacting to a very unfortunate situation. Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Just 1 second, we're working to get the presentation up. All right, it looks like we got it up. Just scroll on to the top and follow along. There we go. Proceed when you're ready.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, the Office of the Collector of Revenue is a fee-based county office. For reference, we run a fiscal year beginning with the first Monday in March as prescribed by the state statute, so we're not always talking apples to apples with the city budget, which has a June 30th fiscal year end. We are responsible for collecting real estate taxes, personal property taxes, earning and payroll expense taxes, water fees, and refuse fees. Collections made by the Collector of Revenue are distributed throughout the city to support various public services, facilities, agencies, and funds. The earnings tax is the largest funding source for general revenue, typically comprising of over 1/3 of its total dollars. During the fiscal year ending March the 2nd, 2025, total collections were $916.4 million, real estate and personal property, $519.8 million, earning and payroll expense, $306.8 million, water, $69.9 million, trash, $16.4 million. City disbursements breakdown: real estate and personal property, $496 million to designated agencies, with the St. Louis Board of Education being the highest department of our disbursements. Also included in that is zoo, sheltered workshops, and 12 other agencies involved throughout the city. Earnings and payroll expenses, $242 million to general revenue fund, water, $65.2 million to the water division, trash, $15.8 to the refuse division. As directed by state and local laws, the Collector of Revenue is funded by commissions on fees and taxes the office collects that range between 1.5% to 4%. In June, any excess commissions after operating expenses are distributed to the appropriate agencies associated with the tax or fee from which those commissions were derived. Excess commissions this year will be about $22.1 million. And since my office tenure, which I began in 2007, the collector's excess commissions distributed exceed $195 million. In the Collector of Revenue's office, we've got approximately 91 full-time and part-time employees. We're located on 3 floors of City Hall. We're just starting to bring in some summer interns for the opportunity for them to gain some work experience in an office environment and assist them in laying down a foundation for their future success. Like most city departments, salary and benefits make up the largest expense for the Collector of Revenue, right around 74% of total expenses. All employees in the Collector of Revenue make at least $18.50 an hour and receive a paid parking provided by the Office of the Collector of Revenue. In the Collector of Revenue's office, we pay an assessment to the comptroller for the space that we occupy here at City Hall. The support we receive from ITSA and other associated costs. We're still waiting on this year's assessment from the comptroller, but it's estimated that it's going to be around $645,000 for the rental of the space we use here at City Hall and by tapping into the ITSA and other departments. In the Collector of Revenue's office, we assist other departments, including the Assessor's Office, License Collector, Health Department, and Operation Brightside by offering our personnel and equipment for large mailings, informational inserts, and other projects at no cost to those particular agencies. Those little things that we send out go out with our water bill. The Collector of Revenue has received ARPA funds to allocate on behalf of RETAF for eligible and improved homeowners who are behind in real estate taxes and in danger of having their home sold. RETAF, the Real Estate Tax Assistance Fund, is a partnership that includes Park Central Development, Prosperity Connection, Legal Services of Eastern Missouri, the Collector of Revenue, and the City of St. Louis. In this particular program, we have already saved 152 owner-occupied homes from the tax sale. This has impacted 272 individuals from 46 neighborhoods throughout the city. RETAF funds are not commingled with any other funds, and any interest earned stays with those funds or is redistributed in accordance with the law. The Collector of Revenue is in collaboration right now with the Water Department and the administration to develop a comparable program to assist our neighbors in similar circumstances with their water bills, which we hope to launch later this summer. It is also funded by ARPA dollars, and the total that we have to distribute is $840,000. The vendor in this particular operation is the United Way. We are also proud to be partnering with Alderwoman Vasquez to develop and implement a Spanish interactive voice response option for water, refuse, utility payments, real estate, personal property taxes made through Pay It St. Louis. This will allow Spanish-speaking residents greater access and ease of convenience when paying by phone. We hope to implement this sometime in September. My office has had a great experience working with Alderwoman Saulnier on her important TADA legislation that requires developers receiving tax incentive from the city to be in compliance with their tax obligations. As I like to say, good partners pay their taxes. always looking for opportunities to collaborate with partners with the Board of Aldermen on programs and legislation to enhance our services, ensure fair and equitable treatment for all, and provide a better experience for all taxpayers in the city of St. Louis. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Collector. And I think Alderwoman Tanya legislation is called TADA, if I'm not mistaken. She loves it if we actually say TADA.
Ta-da.
TADA, there we go. I'll just go in order of seniority. Alderman Browning.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, good, good. Thank you. I don't have any questions for the collector of revenue. Just want to say thank you, as always, for your work. We know that the city depends on you being able to collect this revenue for us so that we can continue to operate. So it's good to hear from you, and as always, really appreciate your office. I won't be able to make it to your open house later today. I was hoping to make that, but we'll have to catch up another time because I really did want to see how your office works, but unfortunately, other things are pressing needs right now. But again, appreciate you, and no more questions.
Thank you, Alderman Browning. If I could, Mr. Chairman, what we have done, and Alderman Browning, the open house that we had scheduled for this afternoon, we're going to reschedule that for another day so that I know your phones are ringing off the hook. And we'd like to have your either yourselves or your liaisons come at a different date so that we can get the word out. But we appreciate that, so we're going to do that on another day. Thanks, Alderman.
All right. With that, Alderwoman Velasquez.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Collector Revenue Daily. I always appreciate working with your office and great partners and legislation. I look forward to our next project coming up. I think we've had a lot of talk about just trying to make things work better in your office. Works really well. And I've noticed that, and I appreciate that your emphasis on customer service. Just so we can use this opportunity, is there anything that either we at the board or sort of any processes that you're seeing that we could be thinking about doing better or improving that would make the work in your office easier or more streamlined?
Well, the work in our office, we continue to work very closely with Pay It St. Louis. And Pay It St. Louis has enabled our office to just really work so much better with our constituents. As much as we like to deal with and make sure that we have the best customer service, the best customer service sometimes is when they don't have to deal with us and we don't have to deal with them. And so Pay It St. Louis works out extremely well. What I'm starting to see throughout the city is that through our endeavors that we were fortunate to put together with Pay It St. Louis, other city departments, we are introducing them to Pay It St. Louis, and we hope that that's going to make certainly an easier way for our constituents to deal in a uniform way instead of everybody out there on an independent basis and just kind of everybody's a free agent. If we can get everybody under the tent, I think it just makes sense for our taxpayers, and it just makes fiscal sense. It's just easier and more accountability all the way around. Just had a conversation with our new comptroller, Donna Behringer, and there's some issues up in the tow lot, and I think that after my conversation with her, I think she's going to start utilizing Pay It up there. I know we're utilizing Pay It in the Mavis Thompson has talked to us, and we have sent Pay It St. Louis down to the license collector's office as well as the building division. So this is something that we started about 6 years ago, and we're trying to spread the wealth, spread the word, and just trying to make it a little bit easier on the taxpayer.
No, thank you. That's great insight, Collector. I think, obviously, we hear from our constituents, we've had conversations. They don't understand when they show up to City Hall, hey, I'm in the city. What do you mean this doesn't talk to this and this doesn't? I mean, that's why I'm in City Hall. So I think that's helpful for us to just keep on pushing. We've heard that, not that we've heard, we know that digital is the future. I know Target stopped taking checks, I don't know, about a year ago. So we should probably be keeping up the times and appreciative that you've brought this technology. So I have no other questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman.
Thank you, Alderwoman. No questions from me, Mr. Collector. I just always appreciate how collaborative, efficient, and the way that you're trying to modernize your department. As Alderwoman from the 6 said, coming down to City Hall, being somebody who used to work in a licensed collector, can be a headache when you have to go from this department and then the revenue and back down, or to the building division, and you just kind of get thrown all over the place, and it becomes frustrating when you're just trying to handle business. But there's a few county offices which we don't have, I guess, authority to kind of legislate, but have kind of took their own initiative and have worked with the board to try to modernize the department. So just always appreciate the great partnership that you offer to the Board of Aldermen and the great work that your amazing staff do to make city government a little easier for everyday people.
Thank you, Alderman. Very much appreciate that. And if I could take a point of personal privilege, what works best in as far as our department goes, the collector of revenue, when one of your peers, yourself, other aldermen, if there is legislation that they're thinking about doing, contact us. Contact us right away so that we don't get in the middle of writing legislation and then we meet and say, well, that doesn't work. If we can hold hands right from the get-go, it just makes life so much easier. And we found that with a couple pieces of legislation. And I would just ask you, as the chairman of this particular committee, to extend that invitation to your fellow peers.
Absolutely, and outside of even just making the office efficient, which I think this is part of, I also really appreciate how you and your team have utilized social media. I think, we understand that any way and however way we can reach residents, we need to get creative with it because we live in a different time. I think I was talking to one former alderman, Vomer, where he was like, remember when there was no cell phones and, you had to call down to the Board of Aldermen. So as technology continues to advance, I know you and your office continue to advance to reach people where they are. So
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
all right, seeing no other questions, with that, we will, did you have a question?
Nope.
I'll take a motion that we go into recess until 11:30 for the next department.
So moved.
Second, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Committee will resume from our recess, and with that, we have the assessor's office to come up and present their budget. Please just state your name for the record, your title, and then you may proceed. You gotta, there's a little button on the mic, you'll be fine.
Good morning. My name is Sean Ordway. I am the Deputy Assessor of the City of St. Louis. Right now I'm wearing a couple hats. Our assessor, Michael Dolphin, was appointed as the Associate Circuit Judge back in January, so I am also acting or interim assessor at this point. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the committee, thank you for having us. I've been doing the budget for the last 12 years as the Deputy Assessor. This is the first time we've ever actually been in front of this committee. So we thank you for having us, giving this opportunity. We actually, to start with, did not have any issues with our budget. We have managed every year to work those out with the budget office and Paul and his group, and maybe that is the reason that we have not been here in the past. What I thought I would do today is just give you a primer and some basic information on the assessor's office, how we work. We think it's a good thing that the budget committee would understand our office and our needs and just get on to where, if we have these meetings in the future, that we're not always scratch. So if we go to the next slide. Just to point out, we are a county office officially. Our mission is to accurately record and assess all the tangible, real, and personal property in the city. And we do that. We follow about 90%, 95% of the laws that all county assessors follow. There are a few that are specific to the city of St. Louis, but for all intents and purposes, we are a county office that would be similar to the recorder of deeds or the collector of revenue. And of course, we are always trying to do our best at customer service, and that's just a major goal for us day in and day out. Next slide, please. Just want to point out our FTE positions and our situation right now. Over the last 10 years, we've dropped a few. We've got it broken out for you by how many we have in each category and how many vacancies we currently have. The drop in positions was actually by design. In 2016, 2017, we got bond money to do a new assessor system and a new digital mapping system. And as part of the cost of that and the ongoing higher cost of that, we agreed to pare down some positions through attrition. And so that's how we've arrived at our current level. Next slide, please. The assessor's office responsibilities, just want to point out records and mapping. So we get a copy of every deed or subdivision or affidavit or anything dealing with transfer of real estate on a daily basis from the recorder of deeds office. And that's what's on that first line. Real estate, people are much more familiar with what we do, but we've broken it out just so you can see how many parcels, what kind of values we're dealing with. And then the personal property on the last part there, we actually have over 110,000 accounts we monitor on an annual basis. Personal property is actually our most public-facing part of our operation. We see over 300 people a day on average. About 120 to 150 people a day on average come into our office. And we do get some fair and valid criticism that there are times when we don't have enough staff to answer all the phones and respond immediately to emails. We continue to work on that and provide the best service that we can. Next slide, please. These next slide is just to give you some context into other things that our office is either responsible for or has a major part in. And if there's cooperation with other offices, then that's noted on each item. Probably most germane is the senior property tax freeze that was put in last year, has been taking a lot of resources. We did that without hiring anyone additional. And going forward, that is going to be something that we're going to have to look at, possibly getting some help just based on how popular that program is and just how much administrative time and effort that takes. Next slide, please. I'm not sure if everybody is aware, but the assessor's office, every assessor in the state of Missouri has a 2-year assessment plan that is approved by the State Tax Commission. I have provided a copy of that plan that I believe has been given to the members, and be happy to answer any questions about it. It's a pretty robust listing of functions and responsibilities, manpower needs, budgets, so on and so forth. And there's an approval process for that for each 2-year plan. We develop and create the plan in our office, then it goes to the Board of Equalization for resolution. That'll be done by the end of this year. Then it goes to E&A for their approval, and then it goes to the State Tax Commission, and they actually either sign off or come to the table if that would ever be necessary in order to get that plan approved. Last bullet point there, the real meat of the matter is if assessors don't keep assessments up and keep them in line, they are subject to losing their state withholding. Next slide, please. We're probably a little different in revenues, I would assume, than others. Based on that state tax commission plan, we actually get a per parcel reimbursement from the state. Then we get 5/8% of tax withholdings that as the major funder of our office, and then the city kicks in out of general revenue whatever remainder is that needs to be covered. We do have some other revenues listed there as a bottom note that amount to about $100,000 or less annually. Next slide, please. On the expenses, you can see that obviously they have been going up. Our biggest expense items that vary from year to year basically are just personnel and benefits. And then also on the contractual and other services, the major thing that varies is we do a 2-year reassessment. We have different expenses in one year versus the other, depending on whether it's a reassessment year or not. And the biggest thing we've actually had changes is probably with printing, mailing, postage. Next slide, please. This is just to give some context to what we do. This shows the reassessment history since 2000. You might notice that after the market crash in 2008, values actually went down citywide in 2009, 2011, and 2013. That doesn't mean that our job changes. So we have to do the job each and every 2-year cycle just to reflect whatever the market is doing. If the values are going up, our values are going to go up. If the values are going down, our values will go down. And if values are flat, then our values will be flat. Next slide, please. Again, this just gives some context to the real estate and the personal property in the city over the last 25 years. Just shows kind of the trends, what we're trying to keep up with in terms of our valuations. And you'll kind of notice that personal property really has tended to be stable over time, which just means that relatively we have as many people adding vehicles or business equipment as we do that people are taking that equipment out or replacing it. Next slide, please. This is about appeals. It's sometimes forgotten in the shuffle. But again, in 2009, 11, and 13, you would think values went down, but you can see that the appeals were actually just as prevalent in those years. We've actually seen a decrease in appeals for the last couple of reassessment cycles. However, we have a pretty heavy assessment this 2025. So we do expect those appeal numbers to rise back up this year. Next slide, please. So this is just to give a little more context to what we do, how it affects the community. So these are numbers from the Collector of Revenue's office, but it just shows the total amount of property taxes that was distributed. As you can see, what we do is relied upon by the schools, library, MSD, zoo, museum, and all the other taxing jurisdictions. You know, about 19 to 20% of what we do actually goes to the city. But we are relied upon for valid, accurate, reliable assessments by all of those other departments. So I hope that gives you a little bit of context as to our office, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, I'll start in order of seniority with Alderman Browning.
Thank you, Assessor Ordway. Always good to hear from you. And I don't have any particular questions. Well, actually, I do have one question. I'm particularly interested in the abated properties in St. Louis, and if we understand the value that they've brought to the city over the last, whatever the term that they've been abated, and whether we have an estimate of like what that has brought to our city versus, you know, if those projects had not happened.
Good to see you again, Alderman Browning. Actually, we do not keep that data. So what happens is we value property, and then if an abatement is approved and we receive that legal paperwork, then we apply the abatement to that paperwork for the time period. However, we actually don't do the analysis. I believe that SLDC, the St. Louis Development Corporation, actually does more of that kind of an analysis, but it's just not something, I think we've done it a time or two over the last decade, but it's just not something we do on a regular basis.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. I'll certainly be sure to follow up with them. Otherwise, just a question that's kind of topical right now. I know your office is working with the rest of the city to keep track of properties that have been damaged by this storm. Is there any additional information you can provide people that may have just undergone reassessments and now may see a lot of damage to their property that may have reduced the value of that property, or just what information you can share with for people that your office is working to provide during this time?
Sure. So we've been asked to assist in damage estimates, which is not actually what the value of the property is, but possibly how much it would take to repair the property based on pictures and other evidence that we're looking at. So that's what we've been doing, and we've been trying to do some modeling and projections citywide as to how large a number that could possibly come to. I don't have good news on the question that you asked. So in the city of St. Louis, we assess property based on what it was on January 1st. And then whatever happens after that doesn't get reflected until the next January. So we already deal with this somewhat, just not in this large of a context. So if we had a property that was demolished for some reason or damaged by fire, that property would be taxed on whatever value it had on January 1st, and then we would go back out and look at it at the end of the year, and if we made an adjustment, that would happen for the following year. So we don't have the ability to change values midstream.
That's understood. Would there be a way to create that ability? I just, it feels like if someone's home is gone, that taxing them as if it's still there, it adds insult to injury.
Yeah, we'll do whatever's legal. So if the mayor's office or the legislature or the governor's office or some authority can give us the ability to do that, we'll do anything that we can that's approved and legal.
Okay, that's something we'll look into. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Velazquez, I'm wondering if she's still on, Madam Clerk? I know she had maybe a quick meeting she had to jump to. Okay. One quick question I have, and thank you for being here, Assessor. Sounds like you haven't come from the Budget Committee before, but we are trying to do some different things just to make sure that we're hitting important departments in the city just to figure out from the Board of Aldermen how we can support. For folks that may be getting letters of a high increase on their property value recently, is there any programs that the assessor office have to make sure that those high bills out of nowhere can kind of be payment plan, or is it you have to pay all at once?
So, great question. So, yeah, I'll just take an extreme example, but if your property value doubled and your taxes doubled, then that's going to be due all at the end of the year. So the senior property tax freeze can help with that. If you're disabled or over 62, 65, you can also apply, and as a separate from the senior property tax freeze, there is the circuit breaker, the Missouri Property Tax Credit. There, for people that really are just in dire straits and behind on their taxes, there's the Real Estate Tax Assistance Fund that is available, which is a third-party nonprofit, but very entrenched with the Collector Revenues Office. The Collector Revenues Office will allow you to go on a payment plan if for any reason you cannot afford to pay your full bill at the end of the year. But those are probably the main things that come to mind.
And I looked at your budget, it's pretty straightforward, so outside of that, I didn't have any other questions about maybe just assistance on what folks can do when it comes to that assessed property tax.
All right. We're answering those questions all the time right now.
Gotcha. Is she back on at all, Madam Clerk? Is Velasquez on at all? I want to make sure I missed her. Okay. Well, Mr. Assessor, I guess that's all from our end. So thank you for stepping up. I know there is a vacancy because previous one got appointed to judgment to a role on the bench, but appreciate your leadership.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
And with that, I will, Alderman Browning will need your support on this. Entertain a motion to go to recess until 1 p.m.
I would move that we go into recess until 12. Did you say 1 p.m.?
One moment. Yep, 1 p.m.
Okay, I move that we recess until 1 p.m.
Second, we will go into, all in favor?
Aye.
Seeing none opposed, we'll go into recess to 1 p.m. All right, thank you all for returning back to Budget and Public Employees. We are back from our recess a little earlier than 1 p.m. Little miscommunication. We're starting back now at 12:42 with our last budget item of the day, which is a treasurer's office. Mr. Treasurer, please come on up, state your name, your department, and if you want to introduce all of your support staff behind you, that'd be helpful. Just make sure it's on. You can hold it, or it's a button you click. It turn green.
Thank you, Mr. Aldridge. Thank you, Chair, members of the committee, those in present and virtually. My name is Adam Lane. I'm the treasurer for the city of St. Louis. I do apologize for my appearance today. I am not dressed to impress. I am dressed to serve. So immediately after this meeting, we'll be headed north, me and many of my team members to continue serving. Part of that team and who's here with me, I gotta look to remember names, but I have my Chief of Staff, Shirley Rutchick. I have my Deputy Chief of Staff, Angela Pearson, my CFO of our Parking Division, Michelle Smart, my Treasury Manager, Benjamin Janiti, Head of Parking, Lenny Freeman, and our Liaison and Security Lead, Frank Williamson, former Alderman Frank Williamson.
Thank you. You got an amazing team, and it is good to see the Deputy Chief of Staff, Ms. Angela, back. She's done tremendous work here in the city, so we can keep great talent. It's always good to have. You may proceed.
All right. So one of the things, well, we'll start with the parking presentation, and then I'll field any questions there. So we have the parking division as an enterprise fund, so we present that separately. And then our treasury budget is pretty standard, but wanted to answer any questions that you all have on that, as that is part of Board Bill 1, unlike the parking budget, which has its own separate board bill. So we'll start with this. We can move to the next slide. Or unless, do I have slide access control? No? Okay, next slide. So that's who I am when I'm not wearing a t-shirt. Wait, actually, could you go back? Sorry, I didn't see that. We had moved. All right. So in terms of the Treasurer's Office, just for public education, so we do all the banking services for the city. So we work with all the city departments to manage and reconcile their accounts, set up new accounts if needed. And we also single-handedly manage all the investment accounts for the city. So that includes airport water and any other divisions. Airport water, parking, and any other divisions. We also, again, oversee the parking division, which has many components. We have on-street meters, we have off-street garages and lots, and then also any new development structures that are on the horizon. And then we also, through our Office of Financial Empowerment, offer financial empowerment resources, education to anyone who needs it in our area. Go to the next slide. So in the presentation, just like last year, I'll go over what it means, Parking Division Enterprise Fund. I always want to make sure people are as informed as possible, especially in an age of misinformation. I'll go over the budget year end results, talk about what we have upcoming and projected for fiscal year 26. Debt balances and reserves are a big thing with an enterprise fund, especially one infrastructure heavy as parking. So I'll talk about that. Talk about what we have on the horizon in terms of upgrades. I love to discuss the value added service parking division offers to the city and its neighborhoods. And then I'll talk about our general fund contribution. So that's the direct monetary contribution that we make to the general fund every single year from the parking division. Next slide. Cool. So what an enterprise fund is, so we do not operate off of any city tax dollars. So the parking division, all the expenses of the parking division are paid from its revenues. And then what is left over as a profit both goes to the city. It also goes to our capital improvement funds, and it goes to just making sure that we can continue to grow as a parking division and fulfill the parking needs of the city. So any expenses that we have to be able to cover that with revenue. And an example that I usually give during COVID, we don't have the opportunity to just come to the city or come to general revenue and say, hey, we're going to be down in revenue. Can we use some tax dollars to support that? We don't have that option. So we have to make sure that we're working efficiently, effectively, and then also be able to use our reserves to cover any unanticipated emergencies that may occur. Next slide. All right, so this is our last year budget performance. I won't go through everything. I'll let you all look at it, but it's pretty standard. So the first two columns are the comparison between what we projected last year to be our budget in terms of our expenditures for the entire fiscal year for last year. And then where you see in the second column projected, that's where we're projected to end. So of course the fiscal year ends at the end of June, and this is where we're projected to land. So all those numbers are the percent variances on the furthest right column are what we anticipate as savings. So anything that's positive is a budget savings from the past year, and then anything negative, which we don't have, would be anything that we were over. I know we're doing questions at the end, so I'm just going to give you all time to see it, just in case those. Next slide, please. All right, so this is what our projected budget, where we're projected to end for this year compared to what we are projected to spend next year. So you see some increases. Personnel is something that obviously always goes up. Again, it looks like it's going up 20%, but when you compare that to what our budget was for last year, not our ending projection, it's much less than a 20% increase. But most of that is, again, just increasing staff where we need to, but also keeping up and keeping in line with we always keep up and keep in line with the increases that the city gives out. So making sure that our employees are wrapped into that as well, since it is an enterprise fund in a separate division. Supplies are going up, so you see that going up by about 50%. With that, again, we have a lot of large parking structures that need maintenance, and later on you'll see our capital expenditures and our bond obligations. But what that is just purchasing supplies that we need to continue to maintain our parking infrastructure. I'm going to give you all a minute again to write down anything you need, and then we can go to the next slide. All right, next slide. All right, so parking revenues, I talked about where the revenues come from the parking divisions. We have our metered parking, we have parking tickets that we give out, and then we also have revenue from our garages. So we are projecting, and conservatively, just based on trends, we're projecting 3% decrease in terms of parking meter gross, and this is just looking at where people are parking, what the demand for parking is right now, and especially in and around downtown with events either increasing or decreasing. These are just the trends that we're seeing, so that's where we're projecting parking meter revenues to be. And then right below that, you can see the parking ticket revenue, looking to increase that by 3%. We're also increasing, you can see the boots there, by 100%, but just because that projection has been zero for so many years, because we actually have not booted and towed since around 2018 for many reasons. One of the big reasons is just uncertainty and investigations around the tow lot. So we don't want to add to, people getting a car towed because of parking tickets, showing up to the tow lot, and their car's nowhere to be found. So until that is reconciled, we're hoping that it gets reconciled soon. We haven't been towing to the tow lot. So that's one reason. The other reason is we know that the tow lot is at capacity. And with the damage a few storms ago to that area, I know that they're also in a tough physical infrastructure place. But that's what we're looking to do. So we're projecting that we will be able to restart that operation this year. As far as the garages, you will see some negatives on those garage projections. Again, every year we try to be as conservative as possible with our revenue projections, but a lot of that is just the changing nature of downtown. A lot of these garages are downtown, and a lot of the businesses downtown that have historically had master leases and parked with us have consolidated their operations. Maybe they're going 50% virtual. So we are trying to account for that. We are actively working with our property manager to see what leases we can secure from businesses that are still parking in and around the downtown area that historically you may not have had parking spaces for. So we are going to be reaching out to them. But again, we want to be conservative in our revenue projections based on the trends that we've seen with some of our leases going away in the downtown area. This is what we're projecting for next year. Next slide. Cool. This is same slide as last year. So again, for these big outdoor structures, they cost a lot of money to maintain. I feel like that's also something that's lost in the conversation. So I do want to overstate that these are not just surface lots that many private lot owners hold downtown with no staff on them, that they don't have to really upkeep and maintain, and they're just blind revenue generators. Like we have staff on our garages, we value customer service, and it takes a lot to maintain these structures. So these projections are done 3 years at a time. So from the course of 2023 to 2025, this is what we're looking at as a repair and replace or capital expenditures budget for the infrastructure that we have. Next slide. Cool. Principal debt balance. So what this is, to start all of these garages, usually there's a revenue bond that's issued. And I'm happy to say that we've been able to meet or exceed our debt coverage service ratio in the last few years, especially coming out of COVID. But this is what you want to see. So our debt balance is continuing dropping as we pay off those revenue bonds. When I get into planned and potential projects that we'll be doing, that will probably issue more bonds, and then we'll see if we issue those bonds, you'll see that number go up. But since we haven't built any new garages recently, we haven't issued any new parking bonds. So we're paying down our debt in one sentence. Next slide. Total parking reserves. So this is a number that you should see increasing. And as you can see, since 2020, that number has been increasing. I talked about this last year. I'll talk about it again. But in 2019 and 2020, the then 28-person board of aldermen had put some measures in, what they thought were emergency measures to transfer/remove our parking reserve revenue. But we are building that up. And again, being an enterprise fund and not being funded by taxpayer dollars, but only being funded by the revenues that we have, being able to have a healthy amount of reserves allows us to keep our bond rating. One, allows us to be able to seek out new projects, which I'll talk about later. And these are projects that actually increase the parking availability and economic development and growth of our region. Parking is a tough thing when it comes to the new developments. It's a tough thing to be able to secure financing for. So any places where the city can step in and the parking division can step in and be a partner that public-private partnership opportunity does lead to positive economic results. So we are continually building up our reserves, even with the slim profits that we're seeing, but making sure that that is a place where we're heavily focused. Next slide. Cool. The value add. So I'll go through some of the numbers. If I talked about every way that Parking Division adds value to the city of St. Louis, we'd be here for a very, very long time. And as you know, we have work to do in our city, but I do want to talk specifically about these three things, and I'll share some numbers on the next slide. But waiving parking fees for job fairs. So Slate, which does a wonderful job, and they're celebrating a huge anniversary milestone. We make sure that people who are coming to secure jobs are not paying $20 to park while they're seeking employment. So we work with them and other resource fairs, community events, parades, everything downtown to be able to make sure that parking is not a hindrance, so that people can enjoy the events that they're going to. People can make sure that they are getting the resources and information that they need for certain events in and around downtown and other areas. We also have been consistently holding amnesty events. We restarted holding those amnesty events during COVID as an incentive for people to get vaccinated, get information about taking advantage of their health. And we've continued that with the different all hands on deck events and resource fairs that other organizations, elected officials in neighborhoods have held. And we're very proud of that. The last thing, which seems like a little thing, but once you see the numbers, you'll see it's much more significant, is actually operating the juror shuttles for the court. So that's another division that does not have to expend, and you'll see the numbers soon, but does not have to expend money for that service, so we can get jurors in and out of the buildings that they need to be. Next slide. So let's quantify it. So if I'm looking at just the waiving of fees to support events, some of these numbers are actually from 2019 to 2025, and some of them are actually, so we're looking at almost $500,000 in foregone revenue, but really value-added services just to support events downtown, and that can be in events downtown and in and around St. Louis, and that's a single year. Parking permit programs and parking amnesty. So the amnesty numbers total close to $800,000 that we've been able to forgive, and that allows people to pay those balances down on their parking tickets. Parking permit programs, we are working with Alderwoman Sanye on launching her parking permit program. It will be the second one that we're working on. The startup costs and dedicating full-time staff to be able to respond to residents is something that we feel is very important. And that is something that we do not actually make a profit off of. This is just a benefit to those residents to be able to have parking availability at their residences, especially in places where there might be businesses, hospitals, restaurants, places that do limit that parking availability. And we want to make sure that, again, our residents both have a place to park, but also make sure that we are responding to the needs of those neighborhoods. That's $1.3 million there. Foregone revenue due to conservative parking rates. All I have to say is Chicago. Go to Chicago, spend a week there, see how much you'll pay in parking. We have consistently gotten recommendations to be able to increase our parking. And when I go around to learn about parking in the conferences that we have, people are very surprised at how low our rates are. But we keep those rates low because, again, our goal is mobility around the city of St. Louis and parking availability, not to single-handedly make the parking division rich. Direct contributions to the general fund from 2019 to 2025 have totaled $20 million. I'll let you do the math and divide that up and see what that is per year, but that's a $20 million contribution. If I add up everything that's on here, we're looking north of $30 million in just that short amount of time from 2019 to 2025, and that's something that does continue. So if anyone says that the parking division does not contribute to the city of St. Louis, especially directly to the general revenue fund, that's just simply not true. Next slide. All right. And here you can see, so I had that slide prior. So some of that is just foregone revenue, but a lot of that is direct contribution. So that $20 million number, that's a direct contribution. And here's what you'll see is our state statute recommended 40% contribution throughout the years. And sorry, it's small. Next year, we'll just do the most recent 10 years just to make it a little bit bigger, but everyone should have it in their presentation deck. From our last year, the contribution, just the 40% contribution profit that will go to the directly to general revenue is that $845,000 mark. Next slide. Cool. Last year, I talked about another value add, what we were doing to increase on our tech side and then on our security measures. I'm happy to say because of these improvements, we've not only heard anecdotally from folks saying that it's easier to pay for parking, it's much more intuitive, and that's what we want. We don't want parking to be in the way. We want it to be something that is easy for our users, whether residents or visitors and guests. And then from our security measures, we've seen a significant decrease in incidents on our lot because of coming to an internal model for staffing of our security, which has worked. So we have full-time security staff that work with us. We've really bolstered this department, and I'm proud of the measures that we've put in, and we're still looking to improve on that. We should be finished with our couples improvements, which is probably our largest expenditure outside of staff, but infrastructure improvements is our largest one, and we're looking to have that closed by this year. Next slide. What are we focused on? So we constantly get entities reach out to us about increasing parking availability. I won't go too into depth with this, but I will say we are working on a project in the Grand Center District for their parking needs around the Symphony area, the arts area. We are exploring a project on the Landing to make sure that parcel gets revitalized and meets the parking need for the additional residential and office space that's currently down there and will be increasing. And then we are working on a deal at Compton and Olive to be able to add parking capacity there in that growing district too. We're consistently applying for grants for Department of Energy, and I can't stress the need for sustainability infrastructure in our city enough, and we definitely want the parking division to be a leader there. Everything as creative and as creative as possible, even looking at doubling charging stations or pay stations as EV charging stations as well. And then, of course, just trying to be as responsive as possible to the dynamic parking needs of our neighbors. Next slide. That's it. All right, so I'll open it up to, or you'll open it up, Mr. Chair, to any questions, and I'll answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. I know you said there was a parking. Did you want to do you had said maybe enterprise? We'll start with parking and then go to that if afterwards.
That'll work.
Alderman Browning?
Thank you. And Treasurer Lane, it's good to see you. Thank you for volunteering and lending your efforts in the parts of our city that need help. Certainly don't begrudge you from dressing down a little bit today. As you can see, I am too. Just had one question for you in your office. I saw that you had some unfunded positions, and I was wondering, among the 2 administrative assistants and 1 communication assistant that were unfunded, which of those positions are necessary? And if you could, get one of those, what would it be?
Okay, so are you referring to the Treasury budget, Alderman Browning?
I might be skipping ahead. So I'm happy to wait.
I can answer that piece too. So part of that budget, I would say the most important thing that I'm looking forward to right now is, you and your colleagues unanimously, I believe, passed the municipal ID program, and part of those positions were for that program. And my office graciously is willing to, again, host that program, and we want to make it as successful as possible. So we do want that position to be filled. And if I could advocate for one position, it would be that third position that's a part of the municipal ID program, because it's going to be its first year once the fiscal calendar year turns. And if we're standing up programs as the city of St. Louis for the benefit of our residents in the city of St. Louis and future residents of the city of St. Louis, we want to be as successful as possible. So that would be my wish.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And then I guess one follow-up question on the tow-watt and the capacity of the tow-watt. I know we talked with the towing division when we had them in front of us, but abandoned cars are a big problem throughout the city. I imagine we're going to see several more as a result of this storm. Is there anything that we can do to help to increase tow-watt capacity, or is there any kind of resources we can try to direct? Just because I know this can be a problem on our streets, and I want to make sure that we're doing everything we can.
Absolutely, and that's a great question. So we have, knowing that the tow lot was at capacity for years now, we have tried, and I would say the way that we have tried, so we did an open RFP to source out and see if there are other tow lots that are not our public tow lot that have capacity available to be able for us to tow there. And we wanted to make sure that it was an accessible location for residents to be able to go, so somewhere as central as possible, and that their operations allowed for people to come in, get their vehicles if they need to, and then again, for those abandoned vehicles, have a place to get them immediately off the streets. So we did our due diligence there, and that was a cost that we were bearing as a parking division, not something that was coming out of general revenue. And we did our due diligence. The only thing that we needed, so by policy procedure, any tow lot that we use to tow city cars has to have a street sign off on that. So we went through the city council's office contract. Again, we did the RFP and we went through the RFP process. We selected someone, but the only thing that we haven't received yet is sign off from the streets department on that. So honestly, that's the only holdup. So if we could get that, we could start towing a lot of these derelict cars, dangerous vehicles that might be parked in neighborhoods tomorrow.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate you being here.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Alderman Velazquez?
I have no questions for you today. Thank you.
Thank you.
And when it comes to the parking division, I think it's probably where we get confused because you have the treasurer's office and the parking division. Mr. Treasurer, do you know where in the book we could also find the parking
Division budget?
Yeah.
It's a separate in the book. Well, it's a separate board bill. It's board bill. Okay. Hasn't been assigned yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
The numbers I know you provided, so I think that's why you may have questions about the parking part separately
okay.
later down
And-
the line, which your team is really responsive to getting those answers back. Let us know if you need some help on the filing of that so that can be on the record. And then as far as the treasurer's office, I don't have any questions. I was also curious. I know we set up the program for municipal ID and that one position was missing for the administrative assistant to see if that would hold back, I guess, the process. And I guess, could you give us, is there any update from that legislation that was passed, if like equipment is bought or kind of where the standing up of that program is? Yep.
Yeah, so I can give a brief update. So we've been doing our due diligence on the back end. So this is something that we wanted to be in City Hall. I think it's very important for us to co-locate all of our city services. So from our standpoint, we can see order of deeds or license collector, treasurer's office, parking. But when people come to interact with the city, they just see City Hall, what door, what room. So we really want this to be something where when people want to get this and need to get this, that if they're in City Hall, they're in the right place. So we're looking into a location, but we're also working on gathering information from other other cities that have municipal ID programs on the best implementation practices. As far as equipment, we've already been in contact with vendors. Our IT department has already started sourcing out where things are going to go, what our infrastructure needs are, no matter where we house it, and then also the software integration needs, capacities for the photo ID program and back end data. So we're ready, and I would say the last thing is just we've already done our what are they called, job descriptions. So we're just ready to, once we know what our final budget and what jobs will be available for that program, we're ready to get those job descriptions out there and hire people so that we can get staffed up and start getting IDs out.
Gotcha. If you want to do the enterprise fund one, you can do that. Did you have another one outside of the actual parking division you said you wanted to present?
Oh, just the treasury budget.
Okay, yeah.
So that one is a part of Board Bill 1. For the most part, it's the same. The only thing that I would call attention to again is the Muni ID program, which we've already talked about. So I don't need to go into that anymore. And the only other thing is I believe it's in professional services. That one has increase, and the only reason why there's a big increase there is for the new, I guess it's not that new now, but the Oracle system that we have, just some specific integrations and build outs that we'll need.
Gotcha. Then, yeah, I do see the increase from about 15,000 this year, asking 42,000. I guess after you get those build outs, will it eventually, I guess, drop back down?
I believe it's a one-time build out. Ben, do you want to? Yep, one-time build out.
Okay. And then I'll go back and list of seniority, but I think since we don't have like the parking one, we were looking at mainly the treasurer one from the book. So, and I believe that's a Alderman or Vice Chair Browning asked, but I'll see if he had any other questions. Vice Chair Browning?
No other questions, thank you.
Alderman Velasquez?
I have no questions. As you can imagine, this is kind of a hectic time for you and for us, so we'll do our due diligence in going through your line item budget, but thank you for all that you've done.
No questions for me. The treasurer office it's very similar from last year. I think only new addition is the 1111 fund for the municipal ID card, which is totally funded at 207,000 and some change. No, you had asked for 287. Probably was looks like a different in salaries, but looks pretty straightforward. And whatever we can do to continue to help set up that program that we passed, let us know. And also on the parking board bill, let us know.
Absolutely. Thank you all. And if I could use a moment of personal privilege in your meeting, I just want to also, if no one has already, say thank you to Action St. Louis. Thank you to Ohan and For the Culture for organizing efforts over the last 4 days now for residents affected by the tornado.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. With that, Madam Clerk, do we have any announcement of written testimony?
I do not.
All right. Announcements. Just want to echo what the treasurer said. I want to thank Action St. Louis and For the Culture and all groups that are coming together to help out during these trying times as residents are just struggling to have a completely different change of life after the storm. Please follow Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the city page where there's updates where you can volunteer. There's several sites throughout the city that are being held down for as resources, as well as Action St. Louis. And For the Culture has a list either on Ohan or For the Culture or Action St. Louis Facebook where you can donate items at O'Fallon Park. I know tarps are a big ask as the storm is coming in. It looks like the mayor posted on their Instagram, a lot of plywood has come in, so folks are working around the clock just to support, which is just beautiful to see. Alderman Browning.
Thank you. I just want to announce that looks like the curfew covering police districts 5 and 6 is going to be in effect again tonight. So again, everyone needs to be inside at home after 9 p.m. If you do not have a safe home to go to, we have a list of shelters on the city website, as well as being shared through all sorts of social media. And in addition to thanking the citizen groups have gone out and been of help, I also just want to extend a deep felt gratitude for the city workers who I know in the parks, forestry, and recreation departments, as well as the streets department, all had all their vacation, all their time off just abruptly canceled, and they jumped into action and had the streets cleared in in just a few hours in critical places, which enabled more help to get through. So, really want to shout out to them as well as the mayor's office for their excellent coordination. I think we've seen, I mean, just what a challenge to do this. Only 30 days in, but yet they've done an excellent job of coordinating efforts. And I really want to shout out our city emergency management agency as well. They've been excellent in coordinating with the state and making sure that all of these efforts are coordinated across the board. So I'm sure we'll have many more to thank in the coming days, but just wanted to say those two.
Thank you, Alderman, and I'll add on to that also our first responders, our fire department, our police department, and also the sheriff's department have all been working around the clock, walking streets to make sure people that were stuck in their homes were safe again. Sending love and prayers to the individuals who and families who lost their lives due to this storm, and just want St. Louis to, as we move forward, continue to work together, stay strong, resilient, and it's just been so amazing to see community and everyone come together. So let's keep it going because people need us right now. When government is slow, what has been great is just seeing the community response has been extremely amazing. With that, Madam Chair, I would like to excuse the Alderwoman from the 7th Ward, the Alderman from the 5th Ward, and not be excusing the Alderwoman from the 12th Ward. And I'll take a motion to adjourn. Second? All in favor, aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.